I always struggle to title these things, but I guess the closest thing I can come up with for this one is like why science-based training will never work. But that's such a weak title because it's such a complex discussion. So I made a post on Instagram. You guys who follow me know that this is in my stories, and I thought I should make a video and just talk about this. So like science-based training, right? The only thing you can get from science, and this is any study at all, I don't care if we're looking at SSRI medication, I don't care if we're looking at different diet outcomes, I don't care if we're looking at different training programs, it doesn't matter what we're looking at. You get the average. You get like, this is the most common result, right? So, we took 30 college-aged, untrained males, we put them on this training program, and on average, they gained 3 pounds of muscle, okay? But when you look through the actual individual data, there was one guy that gained like 12 pounds of muscle, and then there was a guy that didn't gain anything at all, right? And so then it's like, oh, okay, and you start looking through these things, and you start realizing everybody had a different outcome. One guy doubled his squat by doing squat every day, and another guy actually got weaker, right? So what's happening here is that, the science of training, diet, etc., is just simply looking at what's the most likely outcome, if you will, right? So we talk about averages, means, medians, all this stuff like that. I try to put this stuff in simple language. It's like, this is what is most likely to occur. So like if you follow training program X, most likely you'll put 10 pounds on your squat, okay? But here's the deal. If you took the exact same diet, the exact same training program, and you gave it to 5 different people, you will have 5 different outcomes. Now, on Instagram, I shared the story about my brother and I. My brother and I could not be more different when it comes to training, okay? So we are the same in every other way, shape, and form. It's bizarre. Like, we're the same height, same weight. We look the same. Like, everything about us is same, 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 same. Our hands are the same size. Our shoes are the same size. Like, we are, like, just, I mean, it's obvious. People look at us and like, you guys are definitely brothers. And it's like, yeah, like yep, we look like brothers. Everything about us is the same, right? Except what's weird is that whenever we do training programs together, we get drastically different results. And it's funny to me because we're living under the same roof, right? This is me growing up. Not anymore. My brother lives like over 1,000 miles away. So we're living under the same roof. We're eating the same food. My parents were very strict. We went to bed at the same time. 10 o'clock was always our curfew. And we had to be up at 6 a.m. for school. We both, went to high school together. I was a senior when he was a freshman. So, we were getting up at the same time. We were going to bed at the same time. We're getting the same amount of sleep. We're eating the exact same meals. Okay. We eat the same breakfast. We eat the same lunch. We eat the same dinner. We had our meals together, even at school. Like, we'd sit together and eat. So like, we're eating all the same food. We did all the same training. We worked out together. He was my training partner. Best training partner I ever had. And yet we would do these programs, and by the end of it, my brother would be like bench pressing insane amounts of weight for bizarre reps. Like, he would just, I remember him benching 225 for multiple sets of over 20 reps. Now, to put this into perspective, at that time, I was benching 225 for like 2 reps. Maybe I could squeeze out a third. How is that possible? I don't know. He's just built differently than me. It's hard to say. Similarly, deadlifts. We followed the same program, and my brother was deadlifting over 400 pounds in no time at all. How? He could just pull things off the floor like no issue. And yet, I struggled like hell. I was always a good 50, 60 pounds behind him on the deadlift. Hold up, though. I squat more than him. How's that possible? Yeah, I don't know. He can bench press more than me, he can deadlift more than me, and yet I out squat him. That's a weird thing. Why would that be? Maybe something to do with ankle mobility or knees or hips or something. Something very, very minor that you're probably not even thinking of, okay? Because I already pointed out we're the same height, same shoe size, same everything. There's probably some small deviation in our biomechanics that makes him more mechanically inclined to bench press. Oh, and I overhead press more than him. What? Yeah. I can overhead press more than he can, but he can bench press far more than I can. And he can deadlift more than I can, but I can squat more than he can. Following the same training program. I also jump higher than him. How's that possible? I don't know. I jump higher than him. Whatever. It's an interesting thing because you have two people who are as similar as can be. I mean, we're not twins, but we're brothers. Same height, same weight, same everything. And yet we had drastically different results doing the same training program. Okay? So my point to you here is that if you're following some, program that you got from some research study or whatever, or some person is giving you a science-based program, you're going to get drastically different results. Some people do really well on high carb diets. Some people do very poorly on high carb diets. Some people feel great on a ketogenic diet. Some people feel absolutely awful on a ketogenic diet. And I don't care how well you formulate it. People come to me. I used to do diet. I don't do diet anymore for people. I refuse to do it for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into because I don't want to insult anyone. But the thing is that I would write these diets for people. I'm the same person writing the same diet. I have the same macronutrient breakdown. I have the same, everything in terms of, telling people, this is what you want to be eating, and this is, how you want to do it, and this is how you want to structure it. I don't write diet plans. I'm not a registered dietitian. So I would just give people general guidelines, you want your fats to be, 85 to 90% of your calories. And, you want to make sure that your protein sources are very high in leucine because you're not going to be eating a lot of protein. The ketogenic diet properly formulated is very low in protein, actually. It has to be if you stop and think about the fact that the diet is 85% fat. So, protein is not going to make up more than 15% of your diet. So you should choose very high leucine foods. I would give people these structures. I would give them these guidelines that they could formulate their own diet through. I don't tell you which foods to eat. You can choose them. And yet people would come back to me and they would say, I feel great. And then another person would come back and be like, I feel like hammered shit all the time. I have no energy at all. Okay. I don't seem to have any issues with any diet. It doesn't matter. If I do 0 carb, my performance is the same in the gym as doing a high carb diet. Doesn't seem to change my performance at all. What does change things is my ability to play sports, though. I picked up very quickly doing a low carb diet was not a good thing for me to do playing hockey. So although my squats and deadlifts and presses stayed the same, my legs were definitely not good playing hockey. Judo. Man, I run out of gas fast on a low carb diet. I'll do it because, for a while there I was having very severe migraines, and following a ketogenic diet resolved my migraines better than any medication I took. And believe me, I tried everything out there from Topamax to gabapentin to you name it. I tried it, Imitrex. Nothing got rid of my migraines. Sometimes it would take the edge off ever so slightly, but I still had the migraine. I would still have to crawl into bed because I was so sensitive to light and sound. Ketogenic diet. Oh, my migraines disappeared. Okay. Now I don't follow a ketogenic diet anymore because I don't need to, but if my migraines were to come back, it's certainly what I would do. It didn't affect my gym performance. I also don't do stupid high reps or something. I'm not doing sets of 50. So maybe that's, part of the reason why. Most of my training is 5 reps or less. So how much glycogen do you really need to do 5 reps? You don't. And in fact, probably I would say the majority of my training is like 3s. So even then, like even less glycogen. The point here being, right, that people have very different results even following similar diets. And the other thing that I want to point out here, and you know, I almost feel like this could be its own video, but I'm not going to make its own video. So if you guys made it through this far, you get the Easter egg of me admitting something very, it's hard for me to talk about this actually, but I'm going to talk about it because I assume that there must be other people out there that feel this way. I'm actually embarrassed and in shame, and I have shame. Like I'm ashamed of how hard I have to work. Now that might sound like a weird thing because a lot of people are really proud of themselves that like, oh, grind so hard, hard work, blah, 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 mental toughness. No, I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that at all. I've talked about this in previous videos where the only compliment I ever got, and it's still the only compliment I ever get, is Chad's the hardest worker on the team. No one's ever said Chad's the best player. No one's ever said Chad's a really gifted athlete. No one's even said Chad's a good athlete. No one says that. Nobody ever says something positive about me in terms of like, oh, wow, he's really talented. No one has ever made any type of comment like along those lines. I've never, ever had someone say something positive like, you're the best player, or you're really gifted, or you're talented, or anything. Everything I hear my entire life has been, you're the hardest worker on the team. Yeah, that's the best I ever hear. Everyone tells me how hard I work. Everyone's like, wow. And then oftentimes I'll get a comment that's almost like a backhanded compliment. And they'll say something like, man, you're the hardest worker on the team. If only Brian worked half as hard as you do. And it's like, fuck Brian. I just picked a random name. You know, this is not fair. I work really, really hard. And everyone points out to me how hard I work. Even when I was at California Strength. And I legitimately was the weakest guy there. Not surprising, right? I mean, you look around and there's John North, Donnie Schenkel, Max Ada. Yeah, I was by far the weakest guy there. But you know, people told me all the time, wow, you work really hard. Thanks. You're the hardest worker I've ever seen. Ouch. Thanks. I'm trying to remember his name. There was a guy there who, I think he's moved on to something else at this point in time, but man, apparently my girlfriend at the time was standing near him, and he was talking about me to someone else, and he was like, man, that guy works so hard. I've never seen anyone come in here just day after day after day, just working his ass off all the time. Like he just never quits, and he's never afraid of any weight. You know, I've seen him fail squats over and over and over again. He's just always going for one more rep, and like he just works harder than anybody else. And it's like, yeah, and I'm also the weakest guy here. Thanks, I guess. You know, but that's what I've always heard. And believe me, I've been all over the place, man. I trained at CrossFit Invictus. I trained, you know, I went to Kelly Starrett's gym, and I learned how to bench press from Jesse Burdick, and I've been all over the place. I told you guys I've visited every big gym you can think of, different seminars and conferences and all this stuff like that. I run into all these people who are actually strong, and they always comment to me, oh, you work really hard. Elliot Holst told me how hard I work. He was like, wow, you're like the hardest worker here. That's a good trait. And I was like, thanks, but I'm also the weakest guy here. I, you know, did his strongman camp thing. We had this like strongman event thing. And like by far I was the weakest guy there. I mean, I really don't belong at a strongman event. I weighed 135 pounds, but whatever. I did it anyways because I wanted the experience of doing it. But it was like, I work really hard to be very, very weak. And like, you wouldn't believe how disciplined I am. like with my diet and everything like that, and I follow the actual programs. I don't program hop. So, like, I'm embarrassed and ashamed at how hard I work for so little result, right? Why do I share this? Because I share this because I assume there are other people out there who are working their ass off. You're adhering to your diet. You haven't had a cheat meal in 3 years. That's actually completely true. I haven't eaten anything off of my diet in over 3 years. The last time I had something that was out of the norm, I had a sandwich with my dad who was dying of lymphoma. Outside of that, no, I don't eat anything out of my normal diet. I eat meat, rice, vegetables, and fruits. Oh, and Greek yogurt. I have Greek yogurt every day. I never deviate. I eat the same foods over and over and over again, and I'm very, very consistent. I never undereat. I am very, very consistent about setting a minimum and making sure I hit my minimums all the time. I follow my training program to the letter. I don't do stupid things. I don't just randomly max out because I want to. I don't program hop, okay? And I guarantee if another person did what I do, they would have completely different results. Now, mind you, when I say that, I'm actually not implying that they would have better results, because very well, they might do all the same things that I do, sleep 11 hours a night and all that stuff like that, and they may have worse results. Now, most likely they would have better results, but they very well could have worse results. And that's what the whole point of this video is. The whole point of this video is that if you follow the exact same training program, the exact same diet, the exact same everything as someone else, you will still have drastically different results. And so even with all this science-based training stuff, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Oh, I follow the effective reps model. I just do four reps, right? I scale the weight up so that I'm always failing at the 4th rep. 4 reps, close to failure all the time. And it's like, yeah, and one guy might grow on that and another guy might not. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it might have been, I think he goes by like a Mr. America Hart. I think that's his handle. I think his name's John Hart, actually. And he was talking about how, these other guys that he competed against, they would squat heavy and they were much stronger than him. But they did low reps, and his legs didn't grow with low reps. And so he did high reps and then ended up having bigger legs than them, despite the fact that they were stronger than him. So that's an interesting thing. And I've heard other people say this. Other people have said to me things like, yeah, I used to do sets of 5 all the time. My legs weren't growing. I switched to sets of 20 and my legs grew. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Some people respond differently to different things. That should not be a surprise to anyone. That should not be a surprise to anyone at all. I'll tell you what I find really interesting, myself personally, my upper body grows very, very well with low reps. Most people tell me they need high reps for their upper body. No, if I do sets of 3, I definitely get bigger and stronger on sets of 3. Seems to work for my upper body. Other guys are telling me, oh, I gotta do tons of reps, and maybe you do. I've tried high reps. When I tried high reps, I didn't get any bigger. I didn't get any stronger. It just made me fatigued and sore all the time. Everyone's wired differently. Everyone has different outcomes. Look at Christian Thibaudeau's neurotyping. Your brain could be just wired differently. It may not even have to do anything with your muscle fibers. People respond differently to different training programs, but people also respond differently to the same training program. Now that should be something that makes you think about it for a bit. And that's why, the best thing you can do, honestly, is for you to experiment. Keep a log, experiment, track your results, see where things go. You'll figure out whether or not you do well on high reps or low reps. You'll figure out whether or not you do well with high carb or low carb. Those things are things that you will figure out if you keep a logbook and keep track. You'll see. You'll find the patterns and you will find what works for you. Yeah, maybe that should be the title of the video. Find what works for you. But, that's why, like I said, the science-based stuff, it doesn't work. Not because it's incorrect. but just because individuals have different responses to things, and so you will see different outcomes.